Hello everyone. This is the third part of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Chapter 9, Blockbuster. Aden's point of view. A problem presented itself soon. I couldn't open the doors to the containment unit. Hacking was Robin's thing, not mine. Any time now Desmond would walk in to take the sample he would use it, although that was risky, it was also my only chance. I looked for places to hide and settled on the ventilation shaft at the end of the hallway. From that position, I could see the doors to the unit perfectly and I was undetectable, mostly due to Robin hacking the motion sensors. I stayed put for 5 minutes before the elevator doors dinged and opened. Desmond entered looking to be in a hurry. He jogged slightly towards the huge doors and swiped. I jumped out of the shaft and landed gently behind him as he pocketed his card and entered a code. Then the biometric pad on the wall next to the door scanned his eyeball. I silently thanked my lucky stars that I had waited. There wouldn't have been any other way to open those doors without getting found out. What I was doing needed to be seen as something necessary. Taking the blockbuster formula would no doubt increase my strength way above what I currently had. That would raise flags with Batman and the rest if I didn't have a good explanation. So Desmond needed to take that formula first and turn it into blockbuster. When he started overwhelming the team, I could jump in and beat him, telling them that I had taken a sample of the blockbuster to give to Batman for study only to have to use it to avoid our deaths. That wouldn't really fly with Batman, but one thing I was sure of was that he would look the other way. The thing is, I wanted to be a hero and he wouldn't risk losing my alignment to the good side over something like that. As long as I wasn't killing anyone, I hoped he would condone my actions as he did with Catwoman. What Batman didn't know was that although I wanted to be a hero, it was not in the traditional sense. I had plans for this world and I would take every advantage I could to make them happen. If that meant stretching my morality a little into the gray area, so be it. I mean, I was just 17 years old, but I could see what was wrong with this world. That meant more than most. I had the responsibility to change it for the better. The doors opened with a loud hiss and Desmond walked in. I trailed after him and hid behind a machine, watching him. He approached a glass casing containing 6 samples of the blockbuster formula, glowing blue. Desmond pressed a key on the computer and the casing opened. He grabbed one of the formulas and looked at it with a manic expression on his face. Yes, this will do. He turned and left, only to stop before the door with an odd look on his face. He shook his head and left, muttering, "It's probably nothing." I felt like slapping myself when I realized I had left the kid on the ventilation shaft on the floor out in the hallway. I breathed out a sigh of relief when the doors closed behind him, locking me inside the lab. I waited for a few minutes, then walked to the glass case and opened it. My hands grabbed 2 of the vials. I stalled for a second, thinking things through. The plan had been to skip this serum and use the perfected version of it, but the thing is, could I survive without this power-up until the Santa Prisca mission? Hell, I could die here if I wasn't careful. No, I couldn't wait for the Cobra Venom serum. It had to be now. Here's to hoping that adaptable body lives up to its hype. I didn't waste another second and drank one of the vials. Instantly, pain assaulted my body. I felt myself stretch and a cry escaped my mouth. Oh my God. I shut my eyes and curled up in a ball. Desmond hadn't gone through such agony in canon, so what was different? No, he didn't have an adaptable body though, did he? The way the perk worked as allowing changes to be made to my body as a result of an outside element interacting with my biology. That came with the added benefit of my body not changing drastically from the model of how my species was supposed to look. I clenched my jaw and took the pain with nary a cry, hoping it would end soon. With the team. They had been surrounded. Xenomorphs on all sides. There hadn't even been a fight. The xenomorph from earlier had taken them out easily through telepathy. Then he'd given Superboy a choice. Superboy had chosen freedom rather than captivity. With that, Robin and the others breathed out a sigh of relief, thinking that the fight was over. It feels like a fog lifting. Guardian said after the xenomorphs released him from their control. Guardian? Robin asked. The older man looked at him. Go, I'll handle Desmond. A snicker sounded from behind them. Handle me? I think not. Blockbuster will let me restore order here in Cadmus. They looked behind them, only to see Desmond drink a strange blue glowing serum. Right before their eyes, Desmond began to change into a gray, monstrous form with red eyes. Cut 5 minutes later and the sidekicks were losing badly. The creature had blasted Superboy through the roof of the building, right to the next one up. He had the strength to match Superboy and enough durability to take their hits and shrug them off. He punched Superboy to a wall and then used Kid Flash to slam into Aqualad, sending them both to the ground. Robin's birdarangs did absolutely nothing, and the boy wonder was just about to come up with a risky plan when reinforcement arrived in the most unlikely way. Maelstrom blasted through the elevator doors, catching everyone's attention. Hey, guys. Thought you needed some help. Maelstrom. Robin shouted in relief. Batman would have had their heads had they let the new guy get hurt. The creature turned to look at Maelstrom and roared, running forward. Maelstrom ducked the first blow and, in a move that surprised the rest, let loose an uppercut that snapped the creature's head back with an audible crack. The blow was so strong that it sent a sudden gale of wind through the room. The creature was lifted and slammed into a pillar that broke under its weight. Okay, I didn't know you could do that. Kid Flash spoke up, looking shocked. They all looked at Maelstrom in question. To answer them, he showed them the vial held in his hand. It contained the same blue liquid that Desmond had used. I followed this guy into a lab where he took one of these vials, talking about how he would use one to restore order, Maelstrom told them while helping Aqualad out from under one of the wrecked pillars. I took 2 of them to give to the League for study, but then found myself besieged by Genomorphs. I took a risk and drank one, hoping I'd get strong enough to overcome their number. Then, they just stopped. They looked at him and he tried to clarify. I mean, they didn't attack me, so I used the elevator to come up and the rest is history. Robin wasn't convinced. Then how did you not turn into a monster like Desmond? Aden's point of view. My body felt amazing. I clutched my fist in wonder while I contemplated how to answer Robin's question. I have a power called an adaptable body. It lets me adapt to certain conditions without a change in physiology. Just then Blockbuster extracted himself from the wreckage and shook his head while staring at us. Save the rest of your questions for later. Right now I think we should handle this. He's right, Rob. We need to take this thing down. I agree. Kid Flash said, and was backed by Aqualad. You all talk too much. Superboy told us and sprang forward with a snarl. I looked at Robin and added the second vial. He looked at me strangely. You excel at long range against this kind of opponent. It's less risky if the vial stays with you. He nodded and I jumped into the fray, following the others. I called upon the air to slow down Kid Flash's body from colliding against me. Thanks, he said upon landing. His body blurred as he jumped back to fight against the monster. Blockbuster took Aqualad's water mace to the face and stumbled back. Although he was disoriented, he managed to backhand Superboy, sending him flying off. Aqualad came into position underneath him and slammed a hammer on the monster's side. I jumped over him assisted by the wind and slammed an axe kick on Blockbuster's head, sending him to the floor on one knee. Kid Flash whizzed in with 100 punches a second, moving faster than Blockbuster could see, successfully distracting him. Aqualad. Superboy. Hold him down, I have a plan. Don't order. Not now, Superboy, you can set me on fire later with your heat vision. Right now, use that anger and work with us. Robin. Some smoke bombs to distract him. Kid Flash, keep doing what you're doing. Got it. It must have been the urgency of the situation combined with no one else having a plan, but they listened to me. Kid, fall back. He did so, right when Robin's smoke bombs hit Blockbuster. I slammed a double-hand punch on top of his head when he made to get up, sending him back to a knee. Superboy and Aqualad came in from behind and grabbed each of his hands, pulling them back. They strained and I hurried to carry out the final step of the plan. I waved my hands and a bubble of air surrounded Blockbuster's head. I sucked out all the oxygen from the bubble, slowly suffocating him. "Hurry!" Aqualad shouted, his hands shaking while his face scrunched up. Kid Flash came in from the side and helped him, barely easing the burden. Blockbuster's eyes were wide open as he tried to rise up but couldn't due to the legs placed on his back, pushing him to the floor and denying him leverage to stand. Finally, he slumped on the ground and passed out and the three of them let go, breathing heavily. I never want to do that again. I ran a hand on my face and breathed out. It's over. The entrance was before us. I looked at the others and pointed to Blockbuster. Should we leave him here or? The unanimous decision was to carry him outside, a task that Superboy took on willingly this time, sending a challenging look my way. We followed him out and into the night sky. Superboy dropped Blockbuster on the ground as he stared at the moon, too distracted to notice the League watching us with unamused looks on their faces. I looked at Batman and he narrowed his eyes at us. You have some explaining to do. Chapter 10, Aftermath and the New Perk. Aden's point of view. I'm Superman's clone. The air chilled suddenly at the drop of Superboy's statement. Superman's face hardened in a way I hadn't seen before. Seems like Batman hadn't informed him of anything. Speaking of the Dark Knight, he did not look happy. What happened? He ground out. No one stepped up to talk. Robin finally sighed and started talking with the rest of us, adding bits and pieces to the story. Batman looked at me strangely once he heard that I had used the Blockbuster formula but otherwise didn't comment. Some of the other League members did not look at me fondly. Oh boy, they probably think I'm a power-hungry maniac now. That said, I wouldn't change a damn thing. I was itching to go and test out what I could do now. After we finished, Batman held out a hand and Robin placed the Blockbuster formula on his palm. Batman then put the vial in his utility belt and the League members separated themselves from us to have a brief meeting. I looked at the others. We looked banged up due to the fight but we were all otherwise okay. It started out as a chuckle, then I started laughing in happiness. The others looked at me weirdly. Hey, you okay, man? Kid Flash asked and I smiled at him. Just happy that we're still alive. I mean, we beat that thing. We beat everything Cadmus had to offer and came out on top. Robin smiled. I forgot that this was your first time. Kid Flash whooshed next to me and draped his hand across my shoulder. Yeah, man. You were great. And you did make a tornado when the Genomorphs tried to overwhelm us. I laughed as he reminded me of the time he had asked if I could create a tornado like Red Tornado. You're pretty alright, new guy. Overwhelmed? Why is no one ever? Robin started only to have Kid Flash cut him off. No more whelmed stuff, Rob. Aqualad patted me on the shoulder. He's right. You handled yourself admirably. You're fit to be a hero, Maelstrom. I smiled, a feeling of giddiness overcoming me. I looked at Superboy, who was scowling in Superman's direction, and the glee diminished a little. I couldn't let Superman's relationship with what was virtually his son start off so rocky. Something had to be done. Manhunter! I mentally shouted. John didn't react, so I shouted even louder. Manhunter! Yes, Maelstrom. How can I help you? He finally answered. John, could you please connect me to Superman? John was silent for a little while, probably questioning when he had turned into a phone. Then. Very well. The next voice I heard was from the Man of Steel. Maelstrom? He asked, and I walked a little bit away from the others to stop any distractions. First of all, I cannot begin to imagine what you're feeling right now. I know you're shocked and confused and many other conflicting feelings that someone in your position would feel. Go on. Instead of replying, I concentrated on relaying the memories of Superboy fighting with us. I felt the undertones of surprise, respect, and a tiny touch of pride through our link, but so were confusion, distrust, and fear. He fought against all he's ever known because he wanted to live up to your legacy. He wants to be like you. Superman is more than just a man. You represent truth, justice, and compassion. Those values are what he admires in you. Someone like that, striving to earn your approval, does not deserve a cold shoulder. What would you have me do? I never planned for any of this to happen. The Man of Steel lost his nerve, showing just how much emotional turmoil he was in. But I knew I had him where I wanted. Neither did he. Give him a chance and try to connect with him. He's your son whether you like it or not, and right now, he'll need you the most. Do this so that you will not regret it in the future when you try to be in his life. No, you don't know what you're asking of me. I sighed. Why does he have to make all this so dramatic? I'm asking you to stand above the negative emotions. Be compassionate. That's not too much to ask, is it? And with that, I cut off the mental link. I was under no illusions that he would listen to me. But those words, he needed to hear them. Superman made his way to us and stopped before Superboy. He breathed out and a small smile appeared on his face. I saw what you did, courtesy of Maelstrom. Good job. Superboy, hell, even I was surprised. That's not what I was expecting. Thank you. Superboy stammered out. You will be staying at Mount Justice with Maelstrom. I'll be coming over regularly to check on you before we figure anything else out. With that, Superman nodded and looked at me from the corner of his eye as if to ask, satisfied? I looked away, only now realizing that I had just lectured the Man of Steel. Superboy turned his attention to me. Thank you, he said sincerely. Did we miss something? Kid wondered while looking between us. Batman started walking towards us, cutting off the discussion. Despite the results, we are not happy. You should have called. Flash butted in. You hacked into the Justice League systems and disobeyed a direct order to stay put. Batman continued. That aside. Good work, team. However, it goes without saying that you will not be doing this again. Aqualad stepped forward. I'm sorry, but we will. Stand down, Aqualad. Aquaman told his protege. I'm sorry, my king, but no. I watched on as each member of the team stepped forward in determination, standing up to the Justice League. They all turned to look at me and I shrugged. What they said. Batman's eyes narrowed at me, but I ignored him, turning to my teammates. So what do you think we should call ourselves? Sometime later. I made it out of the Zeta tube following Red Tornado. He hadn't said a word about the whole Cadmus debacle except for, I am glad to see you're all right. Which was cool. Red Tornado wasn't a talker and I found that I was more than comfortable with that. Good night, Tornado. I told him and left to show Superboy his room. The hallway was brightly lit as he and I walked on in silence. Superman said you showed him what I did. He finally broke the comfortable silence. I hummed in confirmation. I just showed him the truth. That you're more than a clone. I watched him from the corner of my eyes. His face looked lost before it changed to one of determination. We didn't say anything else all the way. I showed him where the kitchen was, fully stocked pantry and all, and then the rooms, promising him a tour around the whole base come morning. I told him to wait for a little and left for my room. I came back with a few t-shirts that were a size bigger than my actual size and a few pairs of trousers. Superboy didn't have a change of clothes, so I offered him a few of mine and made a note to go to town for some shopping tomorrow. I told him good night and left for my own room. Once inside, I hit the shower and dried up. My eyes roamed over my body in the mirror and I did a spit take. I had abs. I touched them a little and they felt hard. Like steel. My chest was much bigger and my arms, I flexed. Holy shit. I'm ripped. It must have been the blockbuster formula. Thinking about it, I was reminded of the talk I would soon have with Batman. I wasn't looking forward to that. Done with admiring my new body, I fell inside my sheets to sleep, but a prompt from the system appeared before my eyes. I propped myself up and read it over. Congratulations. For participating in your first superhero mission and not dying, you get Chi Blocker perk. Chi Blocker, take down your enemies by targeting their Chi points. I smiled. The information appeared in my head on the forms and where to target to block someone's Chi. This new perk was very welcome. I wonder if it would work on superhumans like Deathstroke or aliens like Superman. The short answer? Yes. As long as the target was biological, then all I would need to do is hit their Chi points and they would be helpless. The next morning. Red Tornado will be your supervisor, Black Canary will handle your training and I will deploy you on missions. Batman announced. We were all in the Hall of Mount Justice. That is the team and the mentors and Black Canary. I tried my best not to stare at her, but goddamn Canary was hot. Batman continued while my mind went off tangent into fantasies with Canary calling me daddy. What? I'm a fucking hormonal teenager, cut me some slack. The 6 of you will be that team. Batman finished. Wait, 6 of us? Robin asked in confusion and Batman gestured behind us at the pair coming out of the Zeta tube. Team meet Miss Martian, Manhunter's protégé. She will be part of you. A green-skinned shy girl waved at us from Manhunter's side. Hello. Kid Flash draped a hand over Robin's shoulder and whispered. I'm loving this gig more and more. Then he turned to the new arrival. Hi Miss M. I'm Kid Flash, this is Robin, Aqualad, Superboy, and Maelstrom. Hi. I waved at her, then turned my attention to Manhunter and raised an eyebrow. She's your other student, isn't she? Manhunter smiled and nodded. Miss M must have felt the telepathic feedback as she turned to me, and a second later, I heard her voice in my head. Hello, your mind is very open telepathically. I frowned. Is that a good thing, or? It is. Especially for someone who's not a telepath. It just means you can project your thoughts out to a telepath much easier. In addition, your mind is very flexible. It's nice to meet you, Miss Martian. Excuse me, guys. I spoke out loud and approached Batman, who was typing something on the hall's computer. I cleared my throat. I'm guessing you want to talk. He stopped what he was doing. Yes. Chapter 11, Testing Out the New Strength. Aden's point of view. Why did you take the serum? Batman's question cut right into the matter. I couldn't afford to lie to him, so I went with the simple answer. For power. To clarify, the situation was bad from the beginning. Which is why you should have stayed put. Batman interjected. I'm sorry, but have you met them? Plus the whole situation with Speedy left them in a position where they wanted to prove themselves to you. It was either join them and try to help out or stay back and lose out on the camaraderie. We were a little further away from the team. Batman had pressed a button on his data pad and I picked up on a static field enveloping our position. Explain. He told me, clearly referencing why I took the blockbuster formula. It's very simple. I didn't see another way we could win. We were trapped in enemy territory, an enemy who had easily taken us out earlier. After eavesdropping on Desmond and learning what the serum could do, I took it in hopes that it would be enough to grant us victory. I avoided the negative effects due to my other power. Adaptable physiology. He stated and I nodded. I ran a hand through my hair. I won't lie to you, Batman. I was selfish and I endangered my life, but my intentions were not evil. All I really wanted to do from the start was to get the others and leave. But things just got more and more complicated along the way until finally, I found myself in that position. I clenched my jaw. I don't regret my choice. I finished, waiting for his verdict. If he wanted me to leave the team, then I was okay with that. I had a plan in place on how I could do this superhero gig by myself. Don't do it again. Next time things might not work out as well as they did. He told me, and I breathed out a sigh of relief. You will also go for a checkup at Star Labs, to make sure that the formula doesn't have any unforeseen effects. I agreed, seeing no harm in that. We're done here. I turned at the dismissal and walked away. And Maelstrom, good job. A smile appeared on my face as I walked away, a little straighter. A day later. Star Labs was amazing. The technology was otherworldly. I saw a man floating in the air assisted by 4 metallic bands attached to his wrists and ankles. When I asked the intern to lead me to the room where I would get my checkup about it, he simply said, "Nth metal," and left it at that. The checkup took a few hours, and after I was done I left for the cave. Stepping out of the Zeta tube, I belated myself after seeing Superboy and realizing we hadn't done any of his shopping. Superboy had always worn the same type of clothes in Young Justice, but now that I was here, hell to the EFF no. Where I come from, style is as much a part of you as anything else. My swag senses were tingling. I talked to Red Tornado and then Gan, Superboy, and I spent the rest of the afternoon shopping in town. Happy Harbor was a quaint little place and the food was great. We lazed around and came back to the base, happier and Superboy clothier. Is that a word? 3 days later. The medical checkup at Star Labs was an eye-opener. The scans showed that my muscle density had increased by over 1,000%. The tensile strength of my skin was enough to block small-caliber bullets. There hadn't been any physical exertion exercises, but I wasn't worried because the gym in Mount Justice was more than sufficient to test that. I looked over at Superboy and found him benching 100 tons easily. My eyebrows rose up as I left him to do his reps and approached the treadmill. I started slow with a jog, then upped the speed as I listened to old-school hip-hop assault my ears. My heart started pumping faster as I regulated my breathing, moving even faster. At my top speed, I looked down and noted I was pushing 50 miles per hour. Not quite speedster level, but still faster than any human should be. Things got crazy when I used airbending to augment my speed. My feet slapped the treadmill as a gale appeared behind me and made my body lighter while also reducing the air resistance. My speed instantly jumped to 60 miles per hour. The air got more violent, and to reflect that, so did my speed: 70 mph, 80 mph, 90 mph, 100 mph. That was the limit for the current me. I strained to keep up that speed while thinking of ways I could increase it. A lot of things factor into superspeed. The main thing though is a high perception to react to moving at that speed. I had no idea how to tackle that. There was also the problem of maneuverability. My speed pushed me forward, but it didn't account for quick turns or corners. Not yet. The way to get better would be to constantly push my airbending training. I could already feel I was halfway to the next level, which was master. I lost control and was thrown off the treadmill. I hit the ground and tumbled to the sound of Superboy chuckling. I got up and dusted myself. These few days helped me build a good relationship with him and Gan, and as a consequence of Superman being more understanding, Superboy was much more mellow. Laugh all you want, but I bet you can't beat that speed. I told him in a challenging tone. Oh, it's on. He told me and removed his shirt. I think I heard a squeal from somewhere by the door. You know, you could simply come in, Gan. I doubt Superboy would mind. I didn't need to be a telepath to know she had run away. Superboy smirked and started to run up his speed more and more to the point he was nothing but a blur. Fuck. I said softly when he proudly stepped back and showed me his top speed. The boy of steel was fast. 200 miles per hour. The problem was that apart from the first episode there were fewer instances where he showed that speed. But maybe that was because it took some time to accelerate. Kid Flash could go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. So Superboy probably chose to focus on what he was good at. Punching really hard. He hopped out of the treadmill and smiled, pointing at the weights. Here's my own challenge. I shrugged and approached the weights. Long story short, he beat me in that too. We found out that I could comfortably lift 60 tons. My limit was 70 tons though, and that was after huffing and puffing. I was a little disappointed in myself. I hated losing, so I decided to at least secure one win. Plus I also needed a partner to practice chi blocking on. I smiled in secret as Superboy and I faced each other on the sparring mat. So here are the rules. The first one out of bounds loses. No dirty fighting, hitting below the belts, or blowing holes in each other's body. Superboy grunted and my shirt came off as well. I had a rocking body now, all the more reason to show it. I saw Mgan, our referee, blush even deeper at the testosterone on display. Superboy and I stood facing each other. His hands came up in a standardized guard. His form was firm and stable, feet set apart and his front leaning forward. I kept a loose stance on my part. Ready, begin. At Mgan's words, I sprang forward, cartwheeling to add momentum and increase chi flow according to the chi blocking forms I had integrated with. The best part about the forms was that they shared many similarities with airbending. Adding airbending to the forms brought about a sort of flavor to chi blocking. They worked together almost seamlessly to give me crazy flexibility and reaction time. I transitioned from the cartwheel to a twist in the air, coming down upon Superboy with a mock of a punch, the joint of my index finger protruding slightly from the rest of the fingers. This was to target the chi points better. Superboy swiped his fist at me, but I grabbed his hand, and twisted my body, flowing like water to his back. My hand lashed out to his armpit and he sucked in a breath as the arm went slack. Undeterred, Superboy threw a backhand while turning his body to keep me in his vision. You can't hit what you can't see after all. Except if you were me, I ducked the hand without looking and swept his legs from under him. My hand shot out multiple times before he could touch the ground, and when he did, his body lay there motionless. What was that? He asked, bewildered. I sat cross-legged while Mgan flew forward in worry. That, my friend, is chi blocking. Is he going to be okay? Yeah, don't worry about him. It's going to wear out in just a short while. Mgan looked relieved at my words. I turned to address Superboy. I guess I can count this as my win. He grunted, a little annoyed, making me laugh. We then left for the kitchen after Mgan told us about the cookies she had made. They were actually good. Especially given that they weren't burnt like the ones in the Prime timeline. A day later, the others came to hang out in Mount Justice. Superboy was not around, however. Surprisingly, Superman had asked Superboy to accompany him for a patrol around Metropolis. I was really happy for him. No doubt it was a tactic for the older man to get a reading on his clone, but although their relationship hadn't started out smoothly, I had hoped that it would go well. Miss M and I decided to give them a tour of the base and its facilities. Of course, things got interesting when Robin and Kid Flash decided to try and beat my record on the obstacle course. Chapter 12, Taking Flight. General point of view. Robin bent his knees as the alarm went off. Suddenly, he sprang forward, his feet barely losing balance on the rolling log as he ran on it. He heard the cheers from the rest as he ran on towards the next obstacle, which was a wall with 2 pegs that went onto slots, which you used to climb. His hands seamlessly used the throttle pegs to climb, not even once did his feet touch the wall. He pulled himself over it and jumped, landing on the ground gently, rolling, and then using the momentum to add speed to the 20 feet high warped wall. He heard Wally ask if he would make it, and Robin smiled. This was easy compared to the training he had gone through. Robin's legs pumped as his feet pushed off the wall to grasp its top, and then he used his hands to not only pull himself up but to also throw himself further, leading to him grasping the rope and swinging to the next platform. Okay, that's cool, Aden admitted. Before the blockbuster formula, throttle pegs always gave him trouble. Aden watched on as Robin completed the rest of the obstacles and ended up with the second fastest time. 21 seconds. Aden said, pressing on the timer. What? No way. Wally came over to see for himself. He beat you, Wally. Just accept it. He beat us all too except for Aden. Calder told him. In last place was Superboy, who had been disqualified when he got frustrated at the flywheel and smashed the rolling plates. Next place was Calder at 25 seconds, then Wally at 22 seconds, and finally Aden held the record at 19 seconds. Mgan had refused to say it wouldn't be fair because she would just fly past all the obstacles. Unsurprisingly, Robin was frustrated that he didn't beat Aden. However, after learning that Aden was at the obstacle course every day, he chalked it up to him being more familiar with the obstacles and promised he would beat his record. The team was enjoying themselves when Red Tornado's voice rang through the gym's PA system. Red Tornado to the team. An emergency alert has been triggered at the power plant. I'm sending you there to investigate. Covertly. He added. Finally, a mission. Robin said as they ran out of the training room. How are you guys going to get there? Maybe I should scout ahead? Wally asked, his goggles coming on. No need, we can all use Mgan's ship. Aden told them. Hello, Megan. Of course, follow me. Miss Martian took a turn and the rest fell right behind her. They soon came upon her red oval craft. It's cute. Not aerodynamic but definitely cute. She's asleep, Wally. Lemme wake her up. The ship transformed upon Miss Martian's touch and they entered. They took their seats and Miss Martian controlled the ship towards the huge bay doors that were now open, courtesy of Red Tornado. Robin reached into the sleeve of his jacket and pulled out his yellow utility belt. You had that the whole time? Wally asked. Yeah, just like you had your goggles with you. Touché. So what do you guys think it is? Wally asked, looking around at the rest. They were already approaching the power plant in question. A huge-ass tornado heading our way? Aden responded. What? Wally's question was answered when he looked through the windshield of the ship and saw the tornado in question. Miss Martian, pull back. Aqualad said in urgency, but it was too late. The ship was sucked into the tornado, disorienting everyone. By a stroke of luck, Miss Martian took advantage of the tornado's motion to pull away by accelerating forward suddenly. The ship landed safely and they all jumped out. So what's the... Aden cut his statement short when he caught sight of Robin trying to sneak away. Oh no, you don't, Robin. Everyone turned to stare at the boy wonder, whose sleeve was gripped in Aden's hand. Robin chuckled. I was just going to scout ahead. You guys come up with the plan, I'll work with you. He then pulled on his sleeve and ran forward. Same with me. You guys come up with the plan. Wally said and sped off. So what's the plan? Miss Martian asked. The rest looked at each other and shrugged, running after their missing teammates. Several tornadoes had sprung up around the parking lot, sending people screaming and stationary objects like the vehicles flying. Aden's speed picked up and Superboy pulled up next to him. Miss Martian flew on ahead to block a vehicle about to fall on a few workers hiding behind another car. Get out of here. Aden shouted at them, unraveling the tornado aimed at their position. Aqualad and Superboy ran forward into the building, leaving Aden and Miss Martian to get the civilians out of the scene. Aden's point of view. I remembered this particular villain encounter pretty well. A villain called Mr. Twister. He possessed Red Tornado's abilities and was very proficient in using them. It wouldn't be an easy fight. After helping the civilians to escape, I went to the back of the building to see if any more people needed help. I cleared that area as well and ran inside. Whoa. I jumped to the side to avoid colliding with Wally's body after he was thrown out through the entrance. My hands came up and I pulled apart the tornado coming at high velocity toward me. You possess aerokinetic abilities. Commendable use, but that will not help you. Came the robotic voice of the android floating out of the building. Twin tornadoes came at me from both sides. I swept out my hand and the gale produced, fanned out in a voluminous wave, pushing the tornadoes away from me. I ran forward and jumped at the android. He pointed his hands at me and an air bomb exploded out of my palm, aimed up at the sky. The force of the wind pushed me to the ground faster and I avoided the tornado above. The android quickly brought his hands down at my position to bombard me with the tornado still firmly in his control. I tried to unravel it like before, but the force this time was greater and I was thrown back. I controlled the air and the surroundings to land safely on the ground next to Kid Flash. He got you too, huh? Not really. I couldn't get close to him though. I quickly helped Kid Flash up while watching our opponent. Any idea, Kid? Yeah. Hit him faster than he can react to, then you blast him with an air bomb or your new strength. I nodded. It was more than I had. Plus, I wanted to extend the fight a bit longer. I felt like I was on the cusp of something. Kid Flash sped off suddenly, leaving behind afterimages in his wake. I slid forward too, moving like a snake as I used the air to make minute changes to my steps in hope of confusing the enemy. All your efforts are futile. The kid flipped and dug both his feet into the android's torso. That's what you think, but frankly, nobody asked you. The android took a step back and pushed Kid away with a blast of air. My hand was already in motion when I saw the streaks of electric energy running down the android's limbs. I pushed Kid Flash away and the electric bolts slammed onto the ground, unearthing the soil. I took the chance while the android's hands were overextended and slammed a fist with swirling air around it for speed and power onto his chest. He flew away towards a charging Superboy. Go to hell. Superboy slammed into Mr. Twister's back and sent him spinning away. Birdarangs shot through the air and an explosion followed after they made contact. The fight reminded me of the blockbuster one. I couldn't help but note just how well we worked together. Maybe we could win this. No sooner had that thought crossed my mind when I found myself twisting uncontrollably through the air. My clothes smoked as an electric current ran through my body, making my muscles seize up in pain. I slammed onto the wall of the building and left a crack as my body slumped to the ground. Maelstrom. Miss Martian cried out in worry. I'm okay, Miss Martian. Concentrate on the fight. No more games. The android shouted from afar as my mind struggled to concentrate on the fight. I had just taken his lightning strikes point blank. Hello, Megan. Mr. Twister is Red Tornado. Miss Martian said confidently while I slowly got up. How many androids do you know that can create tornadoes? Everyone stopped what they were doing. My face turned ugly in anger. What is wrong with you? He's not Red Tornado. Tornado would never put people in harm's way for any reason. I could see realization dawn on their faces. Unfortunately, it was already too little too late. You think I'm Tornado? Let me prove you wrong. A sudden tornado sprang up near Kid Flash. This tornado was different. More aggressive and bigger. I stumbled forward in my burnt-up clothes and tried to take control of the air. I stretched out a hand and felt something. My hand stalled for just a brief second. I wish it hadn't. There was a cry of pain as Kid Flash was thrown away and smacked across a tree. An audible crack rang out and everyone's eyes widened as Wally's leg bent the wrong way. Wally's breathing picked up, while his body shook both in pain and surprise. The fight stopped. Just like children, you also get distracted too easily. The android said while laughing. Robin, Aqualad, watch out. Two twin tornadoes sprang up under both teens and swung them around. I knew Mr. Twister's plan from the get-go. Wally was out of the fight and Superboy. He took a running leap at the android, but the same lightning shock I had been hit with slammed him into the ground. He was still trying to get out of the groove his body had made. Miss Martian tried to pelt the android with trees and whatever else was lying around, but the harsh winds surrounding him were too much. This fight was mine. Wally was hurt because of me. This android was turning to scrap metal. Earlier I had felt something when I had connected with the tornado in his control. The air had leaped in excitement at my touch. That's when I realized I had crossed the threshold. I didn't need to look at the system to see I was firmly at the master's level. My hand rose up and I pulled. Every tornado in the area dispersed. Aqualad and Robin landed on the ground as they turned to me. "I'll handle Mr. Twister while you guys come up with a plan," I said, running forward past them. "Handle me?" He started. "Shut up your scrap metal. Time for you to get your kin kicked." I relished the look of awe and surprise as the wind carried my form upwards and I shot off into the air in the classic Superman pose. There was no warning as I plowed into the android at high speeds. "He can fly now," Robin shouted. "Yes, boy wonder. I could fly now." This marks the end of part 3 of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.